Chapter 2008, The Perfume is Poisonous. Seeing that Zhang Yi was still hesitant, Yang Xinxin pulled his arm and persuaded him, "Brother, why don't we let them go take a look first? That's the best solution we can come up with right now." Zhang Yi was silent for a moment, then slowly nodded. "All right, go ahead, but be careful. If you notice anything wrong, come back immediately. I'll have Black Tortoise send you over. There are people, so it'll be easier to talk to them." In the end, it was decided that Uncle Yu, Fatty Su, and Li Yangyang would go ahead and cross the sea to investigate the situation. Li Yangyang opened her palm, and a green light appeared in the center of her palm, quickly turning into a cute little green bird. It looked very lively. It shook its head and looked at Zhang Yi, then flapped its wings and flew onto Zhang Yi's shoulder. "Hey, can you hear me?" Zhang Yi heard Li Yangyang's voice coming from the blue bird. It opened its mouth as if Li Yangyang was right next to him. "I can hear you," said Zhang Yi. Confirming that there were no other problems, Zhang Yi said, "Be sure to report back to me every 30 seconds. Then he went to find Black Tortoise and explained his plan. Black Tortoise said, "You know my physical condition. Even if I transport them to the other side, it will be difficult for me to follow them onto Zhongshan Mountain. My combat ability is limited in my spirit form. I know, you just need to cover them. If you encounter any trouble, never mind, it's fine." At present, Black Tortoise's fighting ability was not necessarily stronger than Uncle Yu's, so it would be pointless to rely on him. Black Tortoise opened his large mouth and let Li Yangyang and the others enter his belly, then swam towards the opposite side of the weak water abyss. Zhang Yi said to Prince Matsuri, "Your Highness, there may be other human mutants arriving soon. But we belong to different countries, and although we are cooperating, we have some secrets to keep from each other. Therefore, when they arrive, I hope you won't say anything about us." Prince Matsuri nodded. "We won't interfere in the internal affairs of you land dwellers." Zhang Yi finally felt at ease. He pulled Li Changgong and Vermilion Bird into the middle of his team and said to them, "You saw the group of people who came this time. They all have their own agendas, and sealing Mammon is just a cover. In reality, they are all here to seize benefits. I'm afraid that after the sealing is complete, they will come into conflict with us. So don't say too much. I will make arrangements. Do you understand?" Under Zhang Yi's fierce gaze, Li Changgong and Vermilion Bird could only nod in agreement. In fact, Zhang Yi intended to take advantage of the information gap to make some moves. He already knew that it was the Wulwan Empire that had launched the surprise attack, but the other teams did not know this yet. If a chaotic battle really broke out, Zhang Yi, as the victim, would be able to confuse the other teams and make them suspect each other. After all, once he got Ling's humanoid device, the others probably wouldn't let him take anything away. They had all seen Ling and knew how terrifying she was. The weak water abyss, the Black Tortoise's huge body was in the middle of the sea, like a leaf slowly swimming towards the opposite shore. The vast Black Sea stretched out endlessly. After leaving the coast, one quickly got the feeling of being trapped in endless loneliness. Blue Bird kept reporting every 30 seconds. The sea seemed boundless, and it was unclear when they would reach the other side. Fatty Su's initial ambition had worn away with time, and a hint of unease appeared in his heart. He turned his head to look at Li Yangyang sitting next to him. She appeared to be relatively calm. As a professionally trained Dragon Guardians officer, her mentality was incomparable to Fatty Su's. Fatty Su looked at her exquisite profile, her long hair as soft as silk flowing behind her, her face flawless. It was probably the result of technology and hard work, but as long as she looked good, that was enough for Fatty Su. He didn't care how she got her beauty. It was just like her magnificent chest, as long as it could provide him with warmth, that was enough. Thinking about the unknown risks he would face on this trip, and even the possibility of losing his life, Fatty Su couldn't help but feel anxious. Compared to him, Uncle Yu and Li Yangyang didn't show any particular change in expression. Uncle Yu checked his equipment to ensure that his combat effectiveness was at its peak. He also carried a small Reaper of Love, but that thing had very limited conditions of use. It could only be fired from a distance or used to blow himself up, so it had to be placed carefully. Fatty Sue moved closer to Li Yang Yang and carefully placed his thick palm on her shoulder. Yang Yang. Li Yang Yang turned her head and gave Fatty Sue a gentle smile. Chun-Lei, what's wrong? Fatty Sue sighed, this trip is fraught with danger. We might all lose our lives. Before he could finish, he suddenly felt a cold touch on his lips. Li Yang Yang's slender, white fingers blocked his lips, and her eyes were filled with a hint of reproach. Don't talk nonsense. We'll all be fine. Fatty Sue smiled foolishly and nodded. Right. It's just. We've known each other for several years, and to be honest, apart from giving you some equipment in the game and taking you on quests, I haven't given you any gifts in real life. As he spoke, he reached into his pocket and took out an exquisite bottle, handing it to Li Yang Yang with some embarrassment. I spent a long time carefully selecting this for you. I hope you like it. Li Yang Yang took the bottle and glanced at it. Her pupils widened slightly, and a strange blush quickly appeared on her face. What time is it now, and you're giving me something like this? Even if you want to give it to me, you should have waited until we got back. Fatty Sue scratched his head, thinking to himself that he had indeed been a little abrupt. At a time like this, what was he giving her perfume for? It was a little pretentious. He had carefully asked Zhou Qi, Yan Xia, and the others for advice for a long time before choosing a very high-end perfume to give to Li Yang Yang. However, because he was embarrassed, he had never given it to her. Today, he finally mustered up the courage to do what a man should do. Okay, good. We will definitely return safely, and when we do, I will use it for you myself. Fatty Sue raised his head and smiled brightly. But when his gaze fell on the bottle in Li Yang Yang's hand, his smile suddenly froze on his face. Immediately, his face turned pale, then a rush of hot blood surged to his head, turning his entire head red like a steamed pig's head. Chapter 2009, Zhongshan. The bottle he had just handed to Li Yang Yang clearly had the words Okamoto and human lubricant written on it, as well as some neon letters with unknown meanings. Fatty Sue rummaged through his pockets and sure enough, found another bottle of similar size. Fatty Sue's inner thoughts, I'm screwed. How did I mix up the things I usually use with perfume? I actually... Fatty Sue stammered, not knowing what to say. Li Yang Yang said understandingly, you don't have to explain, I understand what you mean. After all, we've been together for so long, it's about time. As she spoke, she covered her mouth and smiled, stealing a glance at Fatty Sue. I just didn't think you would be so bold. How could you give this to me in front of Uncle Yu? Fatty Sue's face turned even redder, and he felt like his brain had gone blank. Uncle Yu glanced at them dismissively and smiled, revealing his big teeth. Youth is wonderful. Fatty Sue didn't know what to say, so he pretended to be dumb and hoped that this incident would be erased from both of their minds. He didn't know how long it took before a black dot appeared in the ocean. Black Tortoise's voice came from above, that's Zhongshan. Mammon, one of the 7 demon kings of the Messiah sect, was known as Zhulong in the ancient mythology of the Huashu kingdom. He was a very high-ranking god in the mythology of the Huashu kingdom. Even in the chaotic and mixed mythology system, there was a saying that he was the god of creation. Of course, this is not credible now, but it does express the reverence for his status. Zhongshan was his place of residence. Uncle Yu and the other two looked serious, and Li Yang Yang clutched Fatty Sue's hand tightly. Black Tortoise slowed down and kept watching the movements around Zhongshan. After all, in this boundless abyss of weak water, great danger could appear at any moment. This was a world that defied all rational understanding. However, fortune smiled upon them, and they reached the vicinity of Zhongshan Mountain without encountering any mishaps. It was an extremely tall mountain, entirely black with not a single speck of color. The peak stood majestically at the center of the weak water abyss, with a small island region forming around it. There was no vegetation growing on the mountain, not even a single grain of sand, and the island was connected to the mountain body, forming a single entity. Uncle Yu and the other two cautiously climbed down from Black Tortoise, who followed them with his spirit body. According to Zhang Yi's instructions, he needed to keep an eye on them and bring them back if anything went wrong. After climbing onto the island, there were no roads ahead, only mountains. Uncle Yu had already activated all of his smart devices to observe and record the surrounding scenery. "Let's take a look around the island first," Uncle Yu said. He didn't rush to approach the Black Mountain, but chose to circle the island to see if there were any clues. Fatty Sue and the others naturally agreed. So, the group began to circle the island in a clockwise direction. Everything they saw along the way was relayed to Zhang Yi by Blue Bird. The island wasn't very big, and at their pace, they quickly made a complete circle. However, they didn't find anything unusual. There were no signs of human activity here, just a desolate place cut off from the world, with no vegetation. But the more it was like this, the more the three of them dared not let their guard down. Uncle Yu used his smart system to simulate the surrounding scene and came up with the following guess. The terrain here should be a circle of mountains surrounding a huge deep valley. However, there is no way to enter the valley. It looks like a prison. Now we can only go up the mountain to take a look. Zhang Yi reminded everyone, "Be careful." "Don't worry. We'll be careful." Fatty Sue was a little nervous, but since they had already come this far, he had no choice but to activate the flying device on his exoskeleton armor and fly toward the sky. The mountains here were thousands of meters high and pitch black, with no cuts or cracks on them. The surface was smooth and flat, as if it had been carefully polished by someone. After flying up high, Uncle Yu's guess was confirmed. Sure enough, a circle of black mountains surrounded a deep canyon. The mountains were pitch black, and the valley was also dark and gloomy, with nothing to be seen. Liang Yang suddenly said, "Look, the mountains are arranged in a pattern." Uncle Yu, Fatty Sue, and Black Tortoise looked down and carefully examined the mountains. Suddenly, they realized that it looked like a circle of blooming flowers. Each black mountain peak was perfectly aligned and smooth, forming a perfect circle. This is an artificially created area. These mountain peaks may have been left behind by the ancient powerful mutants who sealed Mammon, Black Tortoise said. However, Liang Yang said, "Take a closer look at these huge mountain peaks. Don't they look familiar?" Hearing Liang Yang emphasize this, the group looked again. "They do look familiar. But I can't remember where I've seen them before," Fatty Sue muttered. "The bronze pillars," Liang Yang reminded them. Fatty Sue and Uncle Yu heard this and suddenly understood. Looking closely at these huge mountain peaks, although they were completely stained black, their shapes were very similar to the bronze pillars they saw when they entered the Demon's Eye. There were also some mottled patterns on the mountain peaks, and they could indeed see the shadows of some bronze pillars. "This is the place." Liang Yang told Zhang Yi this crucial piece of information, then looked at Uncle Yu and Fatty Sue. "Should we go down?" The dark abyss below was pitch black, and they couldn't see anything. However, everyone felt a strong sense of fear rising within them. If a demon god that could destroy the world was really sealed below, they might never return if they went down. "Since we've come this far, what's there to hesitate about?" Uncle Yu looked calm. He looked at Liang Yang and said, "Report to Zhang Yi one more time, then we'll go down." After pausing for a moment, he said, "Tell Zhang Yi that if I don't make it back, find a good man for Mei." Liang Yang nodded silently and relayed Uncle Yu's words to Zhang Yi. Zhang Yi was silent for a moment, then said, It wasn't something that could be explained in a few words, but he would definitely do what he promised Uncle Yu." Uncle Yu didn't hesitate at all and immediately began to descend toward the pitch-black valley.